All right, Rabbi, say good morning. Today is Daf Samech Aleph, last Daf in Maseches Bechoros. We are picking up in Yirtzeh Hashem on the bottom of Samech on base 60b, and we are picking up 2, 4, 6 lines up from the bottom. My Rabbi. Our shir this morning is dedicated. Our shir this week is dedicated by Heli and Eli Kagan in honor of the Daf Magidei Shir. Moshe Abramson will make it possible to learn the Daf remotely. Yeshkoyach to the Kagans, and I thank you for the sponsorship. We have a Talmud Torah sponsorship for the month of Sivan, anonymous sponsorship in honor of the members of the shul for all of their warmth. Beautiful. Well, so with that, let's continue. My Rabbi. So if you remember again, so we were speaking about yesterday, Meiser Behema, like we've been speaking about over the last number of days. So remember again, the Gemara is working with the principle that halacha l'maisa, the asiri, the 10th animal, is kadosh in and of itself, right? Even if there's not an active designation, even if a person does not name it, ultimately, again, as long as the lashon of the Mishnah was, as long as shem ha'asiri lo ne'ekar mimkomo, as long as the identity of the 10th animal was not uprooted from its place, which sounds like as long as you did not do something active to uproot and remove the number 10 identity, the number 10 identity remains in place. One of the examples of uprooting the number 10 identity, I will say, would be how? Would be by calling number 10 animal 11. If you call 10 11, ultimately, again, that would be an uprooting. So apparently, what the Gemara said yesterday was, with the exception of the opinion of Rabbi. Rabbi was of the opinion that halacha l'maisa, if you call a number 10 animal 11, that is not an akira, that is not an uprooting of the identity. To which the Gemara says, my Rabbi, what is this opinion of Rabbi, who holds that if you call the, first of all, it sounds totally counterintuitive. Of course, if you call it 11, you are uprooting the number 10 identity. So what does it mean when the Gemara says that it's not? My Rabbi, Desanya, here we go. Karla asiri achadasar. Both say if you called the 10th animal 11, ula achadasar asiri, and you call the 11th animal number 10, ein achad asar kadosh. Ultimately, again, number 11 is not kadosh. Divrei Rabbi. These are the words of Rabbi. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda says, achad asar kadosh. Rabbi Yossi says, no, 11 is kadosh in this case. What, and Rabbi saying when we say 11 is kadosh is what? As what? As a shlamim, right? So Rabbi say, so ultimately again, why? What's the pshat? Because klal Amar Rabbi calls man shelo ne'akar shem asiri himenu ein achad asar kadosh. Because Rabbi say Rabbi is of the opinion that halacha l'maisa, as long as the number 10 identity was not uprooted, then number 11 does not become kadosh. Also, remember again, we explained this in great depth yesterday. This is because once number 10 is kaddish as meiser behema, then I'm going to say what effectively occurs. The process is shut down, right? There's nothing more to talk about. Once you have meiser behema, that's it. So the Gemara says, ein achad asar kadosh. So we'll say, to which the Gemara adds in over here the words, v'halo ne'ekar. So we'll say, what are you talking about? Remember again, what's the case that the Gemara just quoted? What's the case I will say? You called number 10 11, and 11 10. So Rabbi says in this case, 11 is not Kaddish. Why not? Because you did not uproot the number 10 identity. To which the Gemara says, what are you talking about? Of course you uprooted the number 10 identity. You called number 10 number 11. So I'll say this is actually incredible. To which Rabbi says something absolutely amazing. Amarava, hachamayaskinon. What's the case here? Kigon de'islei behemas tuva. We'll say the case that Rabbi is commenting on is where I have a lot of animals. Da'aminon chad isura ka'amar. That I will say, in this case over here, what Rabbi says is as follows. That in a case where I have a lot of animals, and I called number 10 achadasar, right, which we're translating as 11, Rabbi understands that word to mean something different. Achadasar doesn't mean 11. What does it mean? Ad kan chad isura. Up until here is one tithing cohort. Right? Up until here, up until animal number 10 is one tithing cohort. Achad Isura, right? One Isura, one ultimately again Meiser cohort. So we'll say an incredible Chiddush. So he's understanding ultimately again that what we thought was 11, now again, this obviously is very much based on the context, and obviously only works in a situation where there are many animals in the flock, where ultimately again, as person is pulling off one out of every 10. In that case, if you called number 10, 11, according to Rabbi, I will say, this is Rabbi's solitary opinion. Everyone else disagrees with this. But halacha l'maaseh, Rabbi will say that 11 doesn't mean 11, but rather adkan chadisura, up until here, one meiser behema unit. Look at Rashi for just a moment. It's in the second Y line in Rashi. De'is le behemas tuva la'aser. He has many animals to tithe. Therefore, the hashta kimana asar rishona v'kara ha'asiri achad asar. Therefore, when he counts the first 10 and he calls not what we thought he called number 10, number 11, achad asar ikalamemar debahachi lo ne'akar shem asir menu. Rabbi will say the identity of number 10 was not uprooted. Demai achad asar de kamar, because what's the achad asar? Chad isura kamar. Kilomar ze isur rishon. This is the first unit of Meiser Behema. But we'll say that is the case ultimately again of Rabbi. The Gemara then goes weiter. So we'll say, so it becomes clear, by the way, that the Mishnah doesn't paskin that way, that no one else paskins that way. An incredible chiddush of Rabbi. That is, but again, to be very clear, Rabbi's only holding that way in a case where, for example, Rabbi's only holding that way in a case where there's a larger flock, and therefore you're going to be counting off multiple Meiser Behema cohorts. In that case, if you call number 10 number 11, we don't really see it as you calling it number 11, but rather Adkan Chad Isura. Beautiful. Yatsu Shnayim Basir. So the Gemara goes back, revisit some of the earlier cases. Yatsu Shnayim Basiri. If two animals come out together in the number 10 slot, right? So we'll say, so what's the halacha? If you look at Rashi, it's the second to last line in Rashi now. Yatsu shnayim basiri, hainu kigon amar mar ushmaita derava kama hader de kamar leil. Yatsu shnayim basiri, karan asiri. So asiri va'achadasam uravin zebazem. So we'll say, now remember again. So in this case, I have two animals jumping out together in the number 10 slot, and I call them both asiri. I call them both number 10. So we'll say, remember again, in that number 10 unit, what do I have? I really have 10 and 11 mixed together. Right? They're mixed together. So what we call Kodesh and Chulin Mu'uravin Zebazeh. So we'll say, so what do I do now with these animals? So we have a three-way machlokes. Tana Chada Yiru. One Tana says you let them graze until they develop a mum, and then you could eat it. Tana Chada Yakrivu. Second opinion says you could offer it up as a carbon. They will say, now what type of carbon in this case? It'll be offered up as a shlamim. Both will be offered up as a shlamim. V'tanya idach yamusu. And the third opinion says they are left to die. Three different opinions. So let's analyze this. Lo kasha. To which the Gemara says, first of all, there's not a contradiction between the brises, but rather, again, three different opinions. Hadetana yiru, the opinion that said let them graze, that's the Rabbanon. Rabbanan hi da'amri, right? Ein mavin kachin lebeis hapsul. So listen to this. So the opinion that says, ultimately again, that they should be left to graze, that's the opinion of the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan ultimately hold that what? That we do not allow kachim to become pasul. Now what does that mean? We don't allow kachim to become pasul. So remember again, just so we understand, we have two different types of karbanos that are potentially shaykh over here. One is shlamim, one is meiser behema. Now, both say, interestingly enough, both of these karbanos have the same window of consumption, which is 2 days and 1 night, right? 2 days and one night in between. The fundamental difference between them is that meiser behema, the meat, could be consumed by a Yisrael. Right? So if I have meiser behema, my obligation is to bring it to the Beis HaMikdash. It's offered up as a carbon, but the meat is totally consumable by me, by a regular Yisrael. Shlamim, what happens with shlamim? So shlamim, again, there's a part that's burned on the Mizbeach, and then the chazei v'shok, right? Ultimately, again, the chest and thigh is given to the Kohanim. So this is something very interesting. So both say, so now watch this, take a look at the top Rashi on Samech Aleph Amud Aleph. So Rashi says, so Gemara says, we'll read this back into the Shita Rabbanan in just a moment. She'ilu hayu krevim tzarech la'ochlan ki chomer shivshay. So we'll say, now watch this. If you were to go ahead and offer up these two animals as a carbon, right? So let's say I have these two animals mixed together, 10 and 11. I don't know which one is Meiser Behema, and I don't know which one is Shlamim. So I'd offer them both up as a carbon. I will say, if you're going to offer them both up as a carbon, what kind of carbon do you have to offer them up as? As a Shlamim. Why? Because Shlamim is the more Chomer of the two. Therefore, you'd have to offer them both up as a shlamim. Now, what happens when you do that? Shilu hayu krevim tap Rashi samech aleph medalif. Shilu hayu krevim tzarich la'achlan ki chomer shebahem tzarich laharich mehem chazei v'shok v'litein lekohanim umitoch shakohanim mu'atin heim ein neachal ela lekohanim shema lo yu mitzuyin ochlin la'osin chazei v'shok v'yifselu belina la'achar shnei yomim v'lay la'echad v'hashta maybe echanem shum meiser lebeis apsul the hameiser vade eno tzarech haramas chazei v'shok lekohanim el hakol ne'echal lechol adam umitzuyin lo ochlin harbe v'lo leisi lo olam lidei psulin. Rabbi says it's actually very interesting. So apparently there was always a concern when it came to karbanos, which only be consumed by kohanim, which was what Rabbi say, that there would be leftovers. Because remember again, any time that a carbon could be consumed by kohanim, you always have a limited pool of kohanim, as opposed to meiser behema, which is what you'll always find the Yisrael who's willing to eat some meat, right? There's an inexhaustible supply of the rest of us, right, who are always around. But as I said, I want to say like this. This is really quite fascinating. There's a concept of ein mavi and kachla beis apsul, which is you never want to offer up a carbon in a way which would diminish the window of consumption. So let's play this out over here. 10 and 11 come out at the same time. I call them both asiri, but in reality they can't both be 10 because there's only one animal that's meiser behema, which means there's a number 10, there's a number 11. If I want to resolve this sacrificially, the only way to do that is how? Offer them both up as a shlamim. The Rabbanim do not like that idea. Why? Because by offering them both up as a shlamim, you're taking the animal, which is really meiser behema, and what are you doing? You're diminishing its ability for consumption, or better stated, you are heightening the possibility that it will be brought to a state of psul because they'll be left over past the prescribed time. Because remember again, if it was offered up as meiser behema, although it's the same window of 2 days and 1 night for consumption, but it can be consumed by anyone, and therefore I know there's not going to be any leftovers. Masha'inkin by shlamim, even though same window of consumption, 2 days and 1 night, can only be consumed by kohanim, and therefore I'm concerned that ultimately there'll be leftovers. The Rabbanan do not want you offering up karbanos in a way which would diminish the normative window of consumption. Therefore the Rabbanan say in this case, where animals 10 and 11 get mixed up, don't offer as a carbon. Rather, what do you do? It's not really mixed up, I will say. Where they come out at the same time and it's not clear which is which, what do? Let it graze, ultimately until it develops a mum. Once it develops a mum, it's yours to eat. Top of Samech Aleph Amud Aleph. V'tana, v'hadetani yakrivu. So I will say, who is the opinion who says that you could offer it up? You could offer them up as a shlamim. Rabbi Shimon. Both say this is Rabbi Shimon. What does Rabbi Shimon say? Da'amar mevi'in kachin lebeis hapsul. Both Rabbi Shimon is of the opinion that halacha l'maisa, you can offer up karbanos in a way, even if there's a heightened possibility that there may be leftovers. Rabbi Shimon, I will say, he's not concerned for this. He's like, again, Rabbi Shimon is going to say, listen, in a case of doubt, this is the only way we have an ability to resolve this sacrificially, and therefore, halacha l'maisa, we offer them up. And I will say, so just deeper, ask yourself deeper. So I don't understand what's wrong with the Rabbanan's resolution over here. This works just fine. Let it grace till it develops. But also remember again, there is always a concern with maintaining sacrificial animals. What's the concern? The concern is, remember again, right? You may come to shear the animal, you may come to work the animal, you may come to accidentally sell the animal. So Rabbi Shimon is like this. Listen, I understand that now when I offer up both of these animals as a shlamim, I am diminishing in some way the consumption of one of them, or let me say differently, I am heightening the possibility of leftover psul from a carbon, or I should say, I'm hiding the possibility of leftovers from one of them, which would then be possible. I recognize that, but it's okay. That's better than going ahead and leaving them both in existence, which heightens the possibility of misuse of one of them. Lastly, Vahadutani Amusu, and I will say, who is the opinion that says that you let them both die? That's Rabbi Yehuda. But say that's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. What does Rabbi Yehuda hold? Rabbi Yehuda, the Amar Toz Meiser Temura Havya. But listen to this. Two-pronged shita. Rabbi Yehuda holds that first of all, Toz Meiser, whenever you go ahead and you make a mistake regarding Meiser Behema, that mistaken animal, so to speak, has the status of Temura. Now I will say, the truth is, the Rambam paskins this way as well. We saw this in we alluded to this. The Rambam says this in Perek Ches, Halacha Beis Veheich Dinam Hatishi in a Kariv Elenecha B'mo Vasiri Maaser Va'echer Va'achara Seikushfar. Actually, we'll go through this a little bit later. But I will say this concept of that when you get the animals mixed up, so ultimately again the mix-up animal has like the status of a Temura. But it's very important. Remember again, what's Temura? Simple case. Right, substitution. I have a regular carbon. I decide, you know what, I don't want to offer up animal A, I'm going to offer up instead animal B. So we'll say, so what's the halacha? Animal B, that's called a Temura, and there's a penalty. What's the penalty? Vayahus muasa kodesh la'Hashem. Both animals are kodesh. Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that, like, for example, in this kind of case, where 10 and 11 come out at the same time, and you call them both 10, in reality, you will say, if I look at both those animals, what I have is one Meiser Behema animal, and one Temura of Meiser Behema. Now, of course, the challenge in this case is, I don't know which is which. But at least the way we view the animals is, one is Meiser Behema, one is Temura. Now watch this, that's step one. Kasav Rabbi Yehuda, Temuras Meiser, and number two, Toz Meiser Temuras Havya, and Kasar Yehuda Temuras Mesa. And Rabbi Yehuda is also of the opinion that what do you do with the Temura of Meiser Behemoth? You're both saying, here's what's interesting. See, under normal circumstances, so when there's Temura, no problem, just sacrifice them both. You can't do that by Meiser Behemoth. Why can't you do it? Because as we learned explicitly by Meiser Behemoth, there's only one. There can only be one Meiser Behema animal. So because of that, the Temura cannot be offered. Because the Temura cannot be offered, therefore what? Therefore you have to let both animals die. See, Rabbi say, no one else really has this problem because they're holding that in the case ultimately where 10 and 11 are mixed together, they're not looking at 11 as a Temura. What are they looking at 11 as? As a shlamim. So once it's a shlamim, I have a lot more maneuverability and flexibility. Rabbi Yehuda is saying, no, it's a temura. Well, once it's a temura, you can't offer it up, and therefore, again, the only resolution here is to let it die. So we'll say, so now, before we go on, now we understand the three shitas. Did Rabbanan say, let both animals graze? Let both animals 10 and 11 graze, develop samum, you'll eat it. Why not? Why do you do it like that? Ein mevin kachin lebeis apsul, because you can't offer them both up as a shlamim, because then you're limiting the consumption ultimately of the Meiser Behema animal. That Rabbi Shimon says, mevin kachin lebeis apsul. No, it's okay. Offer them both up as a shlamim, not a problem. Better to offer them both up as a shlamim and diminish consumption than run the risk of leaving them around. Rabbi Yehuda, let them both die. What's the logic? Number 11 is a temura for number 10, and Rabbi Yehuda holds that a temura is left to die. Temura of Meiser Behema, not temura in other cases, just temura of Meiser Behema is left to die. Good. Says the Gemara, is that true? V'kasar Rabbi Yehuda temuras Meiser Mesa. We'll say, is that true that Rabbi Yehuda holds that halacha l'maisa, the temura of Meiser Behema animal is left to die? V'hatnan, we learned, Amru Mishum Rabbi Meir, they said in the name of Rabbi Meir the following, Elo haya temura, lo haya krav. But remember again, this is going back to the discussion in the Mishnah between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Meir said, if it was true that it was really a temura, it would not be offered at all. Michlad Rabbi Yehuda savar krav. We'll say that sounds like, according to that exchange, that Rabbi Yehuda would hold that halacha l'maisa, temuras meiser, can be offered up. V'chi teimar Rabbi Meir l'may disfira lei kamar. Maybe you'll say Rabbi Meir is not really talking in Shitas Rabbi Yehuda, but he's discussing from his own perspective. V'atanya, we learned, ein bein achadasar l'shlamim. Yet learned in a brayso, there is no distinction between the 11th animal and a shlamim animal. Elo shezu oseh kedusha likarev, except that Rabbi say a shlamim, if it is substituted for another animal, can create a temura that is capable of being offered up on the mizbeach. V'zeh ein oseh kedusha likarev, but yet does not have the ability. It has the ability to make a temura, but that temura what cannot be offered up on in the Beis Hamikdash. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Ein ben achadasar shekaru ma'aser l'shlam da'alma. It's right across in Rashi. Ela shezeh oset temura likarev. Shashlamim osim temura. If a shlamim could affect temura, u'temura san kreva, and about say you could offer up the temura of a shlamim. V'temura san kreva aval achadasar ein oset temura likarev. I will say the 11th animal does not have the ability to create a temura situation that would allow it to be offered up. The Sarah Yehuda, the Taos Meiser Havye Temura, then Temura Ose Temura. Because what Rabbi Yehuda is of the logic that what? Number 11 is already a Temura, and one Temura cannot affect another Temura. To which the Gemara says, Kadosh Likarev Hudalo, Kadosh Likarev Hudalo Avid Ha'ihu Kufa Karev. I will say what it sounds like is what? Number 11 would not be powerful enough to be able to make another Temura animal, right? But ultimately, again, number 11 itself would be able to be offered. So it sounds like according to Rabbi Yehuda, that's what? You can offer up animal number 11. V'od, furthermore, v'od desanya, imin ha-bakar, l'rabos achadas ha-l'shlamim. We'll say based on the pasuk of imin ha-bakar, ultimately that comes to include what? Even number 11 to be offered up as a shlamim. Yachol shani mar be'afatishi. You might have thought that I could even include number 9 as a shlamim. Amrit. So we'll say to that I will say, v'chi hekdish lefanav mekadesh or la'achar mekadesh. We'll say, if you're going to understand that number 11 is offered up as a temura, right? It's offered up as a temura, but it's offered up ultimately as a shlamim for the temura for the meiser behema. When does temura occur? Only after the initial or original item is kadosh. We're going to say, so if before the original item is kadosh, you can't create temura. So the Gemara says, "V'chi hagdish lefanam mekadesh or la'achar mekadesh." We'll say there's something consecrated. Make something temura before it or after it. Obviously, I will say it's only after it. In other words, you can only have temura if the initial item is first kadosh. If the initial item is not first kadosh, you can't create temura. Havi omer la'achar mekadesh. Ultimately, again, I would say only that which comes after it has the ability to become kadosh. But I will say, but the point over here is that what we just said before, that Rabbi Yehuda was the author of the brayso who said that when 10 and 11 come out together, and you call them both 10, that Rabbi Yehuda paskins that what? That Allah Chalamaisa, we let them both die. What's the logic there? Because Rabbi Yehuda holds that number 11 is a temura for number 10, and Rabbi Yehuda holds that a temura itself is left to die. I will say, why? Because according to Rabbi Yehuda, a temura cannot be offered. A temura of meiser behema cannot be offered up as a shlamim. To which the Gemara has essentially shown that's not true. It sounds like Rabbi Yehuda would hold that halacha l'maisa number 10 could be offered up. Number 11 could be offered up as a shlamim, even if it is a temura. To which the Gemara says, Stam Sifra Mani. We'll say, Stam Sifra, whose opinion does it reflect? Rabbi Yehuda, Vikatani min ha-bakar l'rabos achadasar l'shlamim. So we'll say again, the Stam Sifra reflects Rabbi Yehuda's view, and it seems to explicitly say that the Joshua min ha-bakar says that you could offer up an 11th animal as a shlamim. So we'll say, if that's the case, then who is the author ultimately of the brayso? So that says that in this case of 10 and 11 coming out together, being called number 10, that Allah Chalamais, you let both animals die. Ella, Tirgama, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Abba, Kameid, Rabbi Yochanan, B'maiser Bizman Hazeh Askinan. Wow, I will say a very interesting statement. What is this brayso referring to? When the brayso said that we let both animals die, that's talking about Maiser Bizman Hazeh. Rabbi say we learned about Meiser Bizman Hazeh back on Daf Nun Gimel, because although again remember the Mishnah said that halacha lemaisa Meiser Behema applies bein bifnei habayis, bein shelo bifnei habayis. Right? Remember again, taking Meiser Behema is not dependent ultimately again on the presence of the Beis Hamikdash. Right, you have an obligation to Meiser Behema even if there's no Beis Hamikdash. But there's a problem. What's the problem? What to do with it? So I say separating it designating is not the problem. The problem is then if you do that, you are going to be left responsible for a consecrated sacrificial animal, and you have to make sure ultimately, again, not to misuse it or to take care of it ultimately until Mashiach, well, until the animal dies, right? Until Mashiach comes to the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt. So watch this. So the Gemara says, so when the Bryce is said that in this case when 10 and 11 get mixed up together, right, ultimately we let them both die, that's referring to Meiser Bizman Hazeh, where there is no Beis Hamikdash, where the halacha is we let the animals die. We let the animals die so that there shouldn't be they should not present any kind of stumbling block. If that's the case, as the Gemara, Ihachi, my ir tray, afilu chad nami lo. So afilu chad nami. Let's say ultimately, again, if that's the case, then why are you setting this up as a case of 10 and 11 that got mixed up? We'll say this would be true even in a case of what? Definitive number 10. Right? We'll say even if you actively went ahead and separated animal number 10, there is no ambiguity. I know that it's Meiser Behema. If you did that with Meiser Bizman Hazeh, the animal is left to die. To which the Gemara says, Lomi bai kamar. Lomi bai chad de lesle pseida. So we'll say the Gemara is saying Lomi bai. Lomi bai means it goes without saying. It goes without saying that if you did this with one animal, or as I separate out Meiser Behema, I have a definitive 10th. Everyone agrees that's what? You leave that animal to die. You just leave it to die, right? You don't do anything with it. However, aval trey, kevan denefishi pseida lishinu adenipo beimuma v'lechlinu. But I might have thought that what? I might have thought that halacha lemaisa, when you're dealing with two, so maybe halacha lemaisa what? I'm not going to cause a person such a loss, to cause a loss on two animals, to just let them die. Kamash Malon, that is according to Rabbi Yehuda, that is not the case. Kamash Malon, that halacha lemaisa, we would let them both die in order to remove any type of takal, in order to remove any type of stumbling block. So we'll say, so just two pieces of halacha. Number one, in this case over here where 10 and 11 come out together and you call them both 10, we actually paskin like the Rabbanon, which is that both animals are, Rambam pas like the Rabbanon, that ultimately again both animals are left to graze until they develop a mum, and then halacha lemaisa both become permitted for regular consumption. In terms of Meiser Bizman Hazeh, so I'll say again, like I said, we covered this back on Daf Nun Gimel. So for that, I'll say the Rambam paskins as follows. This is actually an incredible Rambam. This is in Perek Vav Halacha Beis. Meiser Behema noig bechulin avalob mukdashin v'noig ba'aretz u'bechutza la'aretz b'fnei habayis v'shelo b'fnei habayis. Supposed to say, isn't this incredible? Meiser Behema applies everywhere and all the time, right? It implies again in Eretz Yisrael, right? Beis Hamikdash, not Beis Hamikdash, in Eretz Yisrael, outside of Eretz Yisrael. So what about today? Watch this. Aval Chachamim asru la'aser Behema b'zman hazeh. The rabbis assered you from doing Meiser Behema today, right? It is contemporarily asser to do Meiser Behema. Vitakinu she'in ma'asrun ela b'fnei habayis, right? And Chazal legislated that ultimately, again, we will not do Meiser Behema once again until the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt. Gzeira shema yochluhu tamim. Out of a concern that what's going to happen, Abba say somebody's going to do Meiser Behema, then what? They're going to end up eating the animal. Then Abba say, what happens if you eat Meiser Behema outside of the Beis Hamikdash? V'nimtza ba lidei iser kares. Shushchitas kadshim bachutz. So I'll say, here's the problem, right? Ultimately, again, if you end up separating out Meiser Behema and you end up just eating it without a mum, that is eating sacrificial animal outside of the precincts of the Beis Hamikdash, which is an iser kares. If you went ahead and you did separate, if you went against the words of Chazal and did Meiser Behema today, in that case, the designation is absolutely valid. But halacha l'maisa, you have to wait for the animal to develop a mum, and then you can. So we'll say this is really amazing on a number of levels. So first of all, it's important to understand. We often think that because Meiser Behema is of a sacrificial nature, it only applies Bizman HaMikdash. It's not true. Meiser Behema absolutely unequivocally applies today. Chazal say you're not allowed to do it. How could Chazal come along and tell me not to do a biblical mitzvah? Because remember again, Chazal have the ability to tell you not to do even a biblical obligation, b'shev v'al ta'aseh. Chazal have the right to tell me to be, passive. To be passive, right? Chazal can't tell me to eat chametz on Pesach, right? They can't tell me to violate Shabbos. They can tell me not to do something positive and dynamic if it serves some type of greater good. So they could be mevatel and asay. There's an asay ultimately to tithe your animals. Chazal said, don't do it. Don't do it. Why? Very simply, we don't want people eating kachim b'chutz. So therefore, again, they made that cost-benefit analysis. Better not to have people in possession of sacrificial animals. So again, halacha l'maisa, it applies today. Halacha l'maisa, we don't do it today. But if after learning Bechoros, you think that you're the Gadol Hadar and Bechoros, and you want to go and get yourself a flock and be ma'aser an animal, understand that it works, and then ultimately, again, you can't eat it until it develops a mum. And that's also going back. That's how we paskin. Once it develops a mum, whether that's one animal, whether that's like 10 and 11 over here, once it develops a mum, it's fit for normative consumption outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Beautiful. We'll say, let's finish. Itmar, here we go. We'll say, last sugya. Ha'omer l'shlucho. We'll say, just you have to savor this a little bit, because there are certain mesechtas that you'll see again in Meretz Hashem over the next little while. So I was like, because the truth is, Chazar, things like that, a lot of times the kachim mesechtas you see when you're going through Daf Yomi. Right, but not necessarily. People don't always have a Chazara Seder in Bechoros or in the Kachim Masechtas. Not everybody. I'm saying some people do. Right, so just appreciate. Sometimes when you're gonna say goodbye to a good friend, you're not gonna see them. You might not see them for a little while. You might not see Bechoros for a little while. However, I won't be 7.5 years. But I might not see it for a little bit. I'm going to be getting involved in other Masechtas. So just savor it. Just savor it. Itmar, ha'omer l'shlucho, say v'aser alai. Listen to this last case. I say to my friend, do me a favor, take care of my meiser behema for me. Right? Take care of my meiser behema. Again, tithe my flock for me. Now we'll say, what happens? This is great. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Mishaydi Rava Amar, Karla Tishia Siri Kaddish. Ula Chada Sara Siri, Eina Kaddish. I'll say, now what happens? The shliach makes a mistake. He messes up in the count. And what does he do? He calls the 9th animal 10, and the 10th animal, right? He calls the 9th animal 10, Ula Chada Sara Siri, and the 11th animal 10. Right? He calls 9, 10, and 11, 10. So we'll say, so what's the halacha? So Rabbi says that ultimately, again, if he called the Tishi Asiri Kaddish, the 9th, number 10, it's Kaddish. But if he calls the 11th 10, it's not Kaddish. Look at Rashi. Karla Tishi Asiri Kaddish. To lo mafsid leklal v'ochlu b'mamo. Because we'll say, what happens when you call number 9, 10? What happens? Essentially nothing. Except you can't eat number 9 until it develops a mum. So Rabbi says in the Rava, when the shaliach calls number 9, 10, he hasn't caused me any kind of loss. Right? He hasn't caused me a loss. He gave me a little bit of a headache because now I can't eat number 9 until it develops a mum, but he hasn't caused me a loss. But if he calls number 11, 10, he has caused me a loss. We'll say, what's the loss? Shlamim. If you call 11, 10, that becomes her. So now he's taken what is a mundane, a chulin animal, is made into a carbon. So we'll say, therefore, our puppy says like this. In general, everybody's going to agree that halacha l'maisa, when I appoint a shaliach, that shaliach is not empowered to do anything to my detriment. right? He's empowered to only do things to my benefit, not to my detriment. Therefore, Papi says like this: I appoint Ruvain. Ruvain, go take my Meiser Behema. Go take my Meiser Behema. Right? Ruvain says, sure, no problem. He goes in and he calls animal number 9, 10, and number 11, 10. What he did to number 9 works. Why? Because it didn't really cause me a detriment, it just caused me a headache. A little bit of a headache. Right now I can't eat number 9 until it develops some mum. But what he did vis-a-vis number 11 is totally does not work. Totally does not work. Why? Because halacha l'maisa, he created a shlomim situation for me, and he is not empowered to do so. Rav Papa says, afilu kara l'tishi asiri eino kadosh. Rav Papa, on the other hand, says, I will say that's what? That halacha l'maisa, even if he went ahead and he called number 9, number 10, it doesn't work. Why? D'amrlei litakuni shadaticha v'lo la'avusi. Because I could always tell the shaliach, I only sent you to help me. I did not send you, I did not empower you to do anything detrimental. I will say anything detrimental even means what? Even calling number 9, number 10. Because now you did give me a headache. What's the headache? I can't eat number 9 until it develops a mum. That's not the scope of your shlichus. The scope of your shlichus is to benefit me, ultimately, again, not to in any way disadvantage me. So even if you call number 9, 10, still the shlichus is null and void. So the Gemara says, really, is that so? We have other examples of where a shaliach is empowered even to do something detrimental. So why is this different than the following? If a person says to a shaliach, say vitarum, do me a favor, go out and tithe my produce. Right? Take truma from my produce. And what happens? Take truma from my produce. And what happens? Tarim kedas palabais. So we'll say it's actually very interesting. So halacha l'maisa, if I tell shaliach, go out and tithe my produce, there's only one issue, which is what? I don't tell him how much. I will say, now remember again, for truma, there are different shiurim. There's no set shiur. Essentially, what is like this: if you're generous, a person will give a 40th. If you're benoni, a person will give a 50th. And if you're stingy, a person will give a 60th. I tell my shaliach to go out and tithe on my behalf. But what? I never tell him how much to tithe. So the shaliach has the right to go ahead and what we say, tarim kedas palabayis. Reuven knows me, he knows my tzedakah spending habits, and so he tithes accordingly. But if Reuven does not know my normal tithing tzedakah habits, tarim bebeinonis echad mechamishim. So again, if you don't know the tithing habits of the mishalech, of the principle, you tithe at 1/5. You tithe at 1/5. Right? So we tithe at 1/5. Piches asara or hosef asara. But if at the end of the day you added on a 10th, or you took away a 10th, then truma so truma. So I'll say as much as the shaliach is supposed to do what? Midas benonis, if he ended up doing a 40th or a 60th, that will work as well. So we'll say, what do you see from here? So now I go ahead, I ask Reuven to take my on my behalf. I normally give what? We'll say I'm a guy who normally gives a 50th. Reuven, when he gave a 40th. So listen, shkoyach, thank you for being so generous with my checkbook, right? But I didn't ask you to do that. Yet what? Yet what's the halacha? It works. So we'll say, what do you see from here? You see from here that when the shaliach does something, even if it's quote unquote financially detrimental to me, the shlichus works. So too again is the kasha Rav Papa when the shaliach shows up for Meiser Behema and he calls number 9, 10. As much as he's causing me a headache and now I can't eat number 9 until it develops a mum. Ultimately, again, what should be the halacha? It should work. To which the Gemara says the cases aren't comparable. Amri Hassam, Kevan di'ika detarim ba'ayin yafe, v'ika detarim ba'ayin ra, Amar lahachi amaraticha. We'll say here's the difference. In the case of the truma, see, we'll say as long as the shaliach is tithing in the realm of that which is acceptable, right? In the normative range, which is 1/40th, anywhere between 1/40th and 1/60th. Ultimately, the shaliach could always claim that what? I'm sorry, I made a mistake about your spending habits, but I'm within the normative range. Because he's within the normative range, therefore what? The truma designation will work. Hacha ta'usehi. We'll say here in the case of declaring animal number 9, 10, that is a ta'us. That is a fundamental error. And where there is a ta'us, amar lo iboy lecha lemiti. The mishaleach, the principal, could always say to the shaliach, I did not appoint you to make any kind of mistakes. I appointed you ultimately to go ahead and take care of my Meiser Behema, not to make mistakes. Therefore, if you end up making mistakes, halacha l'maisa, the shalichos is null and void. And I will say, this is indeed how the Rambam paskins. The Rambam says this in Parak Ches halacha beis. The Rambam says as follows: if a person makes a shaliach to tithe his animals on his behalf, v'ta bein teshi bein achadasar ein miskadish ella ha'asiri avadai. Let's say if the shliach makes any mistake, he calls number 9, number 10, he calls number 11, number 10. Those designations are meaningless. Shalo aso shaliach litos ulahafsid ella kadesh karka. As I could say, I only appointed you as a shaliach to sanctify the correct animal, not to make any mistakes. So it's a fundamental distinction between meiser behema and regular meiser. In meiser, if it turns out that the shaliach tithed not in accordance with the wishes of the mishalech, assuming that the mishalech did not articulate his particular percentage of meiser, as long as the shaliach tithed within the acceptable range, the meiser works. On the flip side, if the shaliach makes a mistake, mamish, he calls animal number 9, number 10, number 11, number 10. In that case, the shlichus is void vis-a-vis those items, because the mishach, the principal, has the right to say, "Letakuni shedaticha v'lo lavusi." I only sent you to benefit me, not to put me at a detriment. Hadrun Allah, meiser behima, uslik Allah, mesechas Bechoros. So we'll say, Mazel Tov. Emir Hashem, tomorrow we begin Mesechas Erechim. Shkoyach. No, the 10th one will be called. There's assuming that he called number 10 also.
So the process is being happened. That's correct.
That is correct. Yeah, the last morning.